right. Should be live. Okay. Good to see everybody again. Back here again for another part of the off-grid seminar. And we'll just go ahead and get started here. And just like I said, I give it a minute or so just to make sure that people have time to get here and start watching. Trust everybody's doing good. So I'm going to talk today about people who should not move off-grid. Not a real in-depth one, but there are some people that really shouldn't try to be off-grid, and I will explain why. Again, my experience over the years of people that tried to move off-grid and it didn't work. So something to think about here. Okay, so we will get started. People who should not move off-grid. Number one, not in any list of importance or more so or whatever. People that have health problems which would require a nearby hospital. And I say that just as general advice for somebody out there that says, well, I have these issues and I need to go to the doctor a lot in the hospital. I am a natural health practitioner. I've been practicing it on myself and on my family and giving out the advice for other people. A lot of experience in natural health and healing and things. The best thing to do is get your nutrition figured out, get in good shape, and whatever else. You won't need the hospital or the doctor. I haven't been to a doctor or any kind of medical personality in probably, I don't even know, 15 years, maybe, something like that. My son was born at home. I delivered him. So, people can say, oh, just wait till you get a child or something like that, then you'll need the hospital. No, I won't. And we're careful, again, oh, it's just living dangerously. Well, life is dangerous, but I find people that have all the health insurance and all the medical stuff around, a lot of times they can be a little bit more stupid with the way that they live, because, hey, it's all covered. If I have to go to the hospital, no big deal. We're careful. We think before we do certain things. Hey, don't do that, son. Don't climb up on that. You could, get hurt there and can't go to the hospital or anything here. Please be careful. Okay. It makes you think before you do things. If I go out, I'm going to be, cutting timber or whatever, doing firewood. I think first and I say, you know what? I don't really like the way these trees are above me here. I should probably do this or that. I don't want to end up, hurt really bad. And there's really no hospital real close to us here. There's a medical health center thing down the road from us here in Patton a ways, but I don't really intend to ever go to a place like that. So, but if you get somebody that's sickly, that requires a lot of medical attention, going off grid in the middle of nowhere might not be a good idea. Now, if you could go off grid in terms of in a small town or something, and you just say, not really living with electricity, I'm cutting out a lot of the modern conveniences. Well, sure, absolutely. Again, define off-grid. Well, you have to be at least 3 hours away from anybody else and be dropped in by helicopter or something, or bush plane or something, and have no anything. No, you can be, not dependent on electricity, even if you're in a town, So, but I'm saying mostly for the people that would move way out into the middle of nowhere, if you have health issues, get those fixed up first. Okay. Another one, and I have heard this. Again, I'm not trying to be insulting here or just a jerk. I have heard this. Okay. Those concerned with theater, opera, or status. I've heard, men and that talk about their wives says, yeah, I like to go to the opera once in a while and whatever. I'm concerned about, my social club and whatever. Don't go off grid. Okay. Get a nice place in town or whatever else. Please don't move out into the country and have to do your little trips back to, to check with your society friends and whatever else. It's not only is it not the right thing to do, but it's not the right mindset to be in an off-grid situation. It just simply isn't. Again, you get out. I remember watching a woman that was actually in the Allagash wilderness area, one of the camps over there, and she said she was, the wife of the guy that was running the camp, and she said one of the most amazing things was she was out canoeing the lake one night, and she came around this corner, and there was a tree that had lightning bugs in it, and they were all lit at the same time. And she said it was the most beautiful, amazing thing she's ever seen. And if you've ever been out on a lake in a northern environment, you can hear the sound of the oh man, I'm forgetting. I don't have it in my notes right now. The can't think of the name of the bird. Oh man, I'll think of it in a minute. I'm sorry, my brain just. Ugh. But you can hear the sound of, the. I can't think of it, but you can, the sounds of being out on the water at night, looking up at the loon. Thank you, thank you, Dale. That's it. Yeah, the loon. Thank you. There's nothing like the sound of a loon at night out on a lake, looking up at all the stars and everything else. It's theater. Are you kidding me? You know, there's nothing that can compare. And if that sounds interesting to you and intriguing and the sounds of nature and whatever else, well then you'll probably make it off grid. Well, I couldn't think of the name loon, but the next one here. Those who want to start out off grid and then eventually connect to the grid. And again, I don't care. People can be on the grid. That's fine. I'm not, I don't go around and yell at people because they have electric come to their house or something. I don't care what people do with their time, but I've seen people and they will go and they will buy cheap land that's off grid, and then they try to bring the power to it. It's not right. You shouldn't do that, because what you're doing is you're going to increase the property taxes in the area and everything else, which is another one of my points coming up here. So, if you're going to make up your mind, I want to be off grid, then stick with it and, grow along with your experiences. I actually heard some guy the one time say that it takes about 9 years to get to know a property. And at the time I thought, can't take that long. Yeah, it does. To go through the different seasons and, oh, this year was really dry and we didn't get, these berries didn't grow right, or the apples didn't grow, or, and you learn a lot of different things. It takes years to get to know a property. So if you're moving and saying, well, I'll do the off-grid thing for a little bit, and then I'm just going to get power to the property and things, just buy a property that already has power. It's kind of the point I'm trying to make. People that are addicted to TV would be another group. Running some huge big 60-inch TV or something off grid, not really practical. Again, why are you going to go off grid if you have to watch television and what's the latest of everything and whatever? I remember in the Dick Prenicky book that I talked about, One Man's Wilderness, he talked about how that he doesn't even read a newspaper, and he said, my life is my newspaper. I get up and, Dick Prenicky goes down to the water to get a fish, a grayling or something like that. That's today's top headlines. And there's a lot of good thought to that. Again, if you have to be entertained and things, what are you doing going off grid? What are you doing out there? If you want to be that kind of life, then get a place in town and then have your off-grid cabin or something like that, or, and that's another thing that you can do too, by the way. The thing of being off-grid, it doesn't have to be full-time, but keep the two separated, right? For people out there, it might be looking into that as an idea. Get a cabin someplace, like an old hunting cabin or something, that there's no electricity. And then you can go out there and you can spend more time out there and try out new things and whatever else. Spend more and more time at your off-grid cabin. Another thing that you can do. Another one that irritates me, mansion builders who want to move city conveniences to off-grid properties. I remember there was actually a guy, oh man, I can't think of what the guy's name, Buckskin Bill or something like that. There was actually a video about that guy. Let me see if I can find it here quick. And this guy said, he made this really phenomenal Um, yeah, he made this really phenomenal statement about how that people they leave, they leave the city and then they bring the city with them, and they try to make it all work out there in the country. I'll show this video here in a little bit, but there's a lot of truth to that. So if you're going to come out into the country and you want to build some gigantic, huge, big mansion out there, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be driving property tax up. It's not really going to work efficiently off grid. Again, you're just going to end up making yourself miserable. There's a channel on YouTube that I saw a few of their videos, and they built some, gigantic big place, and they're running a dishwasher and everything else off of solar and constantly complaining about this problem and that problem. And yeah, it's not really a smart thing to go off grid and build some gigantic thing. And like I said, it's going to increase property tax, which increases the property tax, and it pushes out the local people too, by the way. I'll say that. That's another thing that's irritating, because then they start to raise other, property taxes in the area. I knew a place actually in Pennsylvania where it was a country area, and these people from the city of Reading were coming out there and buying up all the properties and building these gigantic mansions, and it basically bankrupted, I shouldn't say bankrupted, but it actually pushed out the local people then, because nobody could afford the property tax, and that was the whole point of it. So all the rich people came out, took over the whole road, and pushed out all the poor people. It's not the right thing to do. Another one, people who hate isolation. Okay, again, depending on where you go, but I'm saying this point is for those who want to move out to a very remote area, and you're out there by yourself, you're miles away from whatever else. You have to love isolation. You have to love to be able to be by yourself and say, I just want to be able to be left alone and raise my animals and my garden and whatever else. You have to like isolation. And again, people that like isolation, it's not that they, there might be some that don't want to be around people, but a lot of people that like isolation, it's just more of a, I want to be able to get up and plan my day myself and not have somebody else plan it for me and tell me what to do. Another one that really has irritated me over the years, and that's people who want to change the area and not preserve it. If you go to a country remote area, don't go in there with the intent of changing everything, and we have to bring this service in and that thing in, whatever. You're coming in as an outsider, especially if you're from the city and you want to move out to the country. You have to understand there's people out there are going to be friendly but standoffish at first, because we don't want our area changed. All right, so you come out, you have to think about that. You can't just come out and say, well, I'm just going to bring all this new stuff and people just have to get used to it. That's not going to work. You're not going to make many friends doing that. You should have an appreciation for history. You should be able to come to an area and say, you know what, I'd like to learn about this area, which I'll be talking a little bit more about here in another point. But that's an important thing. Another one that people that should not move off grid would be anti-gunners, people that are against guns and firearms and whatever else. Again, I knew of a couple that had moved, and she was kind of a modern feministic, career-minded woman or whatever. And I'll have no guns in our home. And she changed her mind very quickly when there was a bear outside, and trying to get into their yurt. You don't have to be, having a gun does not mean that you're some kind of I want to kill everybody in the world or something. No, there's practical applications for guns, right? And you have to be willing to, there might be a bad animal or something that's, wounded or something, or that's sick, or something's wrong up in the head there, or whatever else, or they just will not go away. And you have to say, okay, you're, chewing on the wires of my vehicle or whatever else. If you're some kind of an animal rights, don't kill animals type of a person, don't move off grid. Okay. Another piece of advice there. Another one. which I think should be a real standard, and that is people who want others to raise their children. Um, Public schooling here in this area is 60% of our tax bill. Now, I am not again, I'm not for that. Okay. I am not at all for that. I don't think there should be public schools. Public schools are an experiment that's not even 100 years old in terms of the modern way of doing things, of the big buses going out and getting the kids and everything else, taking them to a school. And especially now with all the junk that they're teaching these children in school, it's terrible. They should be abolished, quite frankly. And if you're going to move to an off-grid situation, I think, and you have children, you should be homeschooling them. They'll learn a lot more from being with their parents. That's something that you should consider. Again, and it's my personal opinion. Somebody wants to disagree with that, go move off grid and send your children to school and whatever. Well, do whatever you want. But I'm just saying, from what I've seen, people that want to go and do the whole, well, usually doesn't work out very well. Another one, people who want others to do their work. I've seen that. I have personal experience with that, where people that move to a country area and, oh, hey, oh, you have firewood over there. Hey, could you sell me some of your firewood? No. Oh, hey, I'm stuck. Could you come over and help me out over here? And no, you figure that out yourself. I mean, I'm not saying I don't help people, but I'm just saying, you're out here, you have to earn your stripes, kind of a thing. Don't go out and just be constantly calling people and, oh, hey, stop your life and come over in here and get me unstuck because I'm stuck or something. It's not a good way to, show that you can take it out there. Another thing that I've seen, another one, people that shouldn't move off grid, outsiders who are too proud to listen to local advice. The old saying goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, That's another thing that's very important. Don't go out and start pushing people around. If you're an outsider, then go and learn from them. I was not born and raised in Maine. And my favorite people to talk to are Mainers, people that were born and raised here. And I've learned a lot. Just even how to pronounce, things the right way. I was pronouncing things pretty foolishly when I first came to Maine. But just, hey, what's this about? What's that about? Talking to an older man one time, born and raised in Aroostook County, and he said, this guy was just a walking textbook. And we had a great conversation. We were there for a couple hours talking to the guy, and I learned so much in that time. We just had a great time, and it was a real honor to meet the guy. And so, again, if you get somebody that's coming into an area and they're pushing the locals around and kind of, treating them like they're their peasants or something, it's not going to go well, and you're not going to get the people will be friendly at first, but then it'll start to go the opposite direction. So give you some advice on that. Another one, the final one that I've written here, would be married couples that are not in agreement. I saw there's some ridiculous reality TV show that all these reality TV shows, just a bunch of drama creation. And I clicked on a video the other day and this thing comes up. I don't even know what it's called, something about off-grid something or other. And there's this guy and he's got this city girl and he's going to take her off-grid and all the drama of it all, where she's shocked by his toilets being in one place. I'm just thinking, just stupid, good old Hollywood. They try to take anything that's pure and wholesome and twist it and make it messed up. But yeah, but if you're not in agreement as a married couple, again, you're going to go out there and it's not going to go well. And typically it's the wife that does not like the off-grid situation. There are some examples that I've actually known of where it's actually the man that didn't like the off-grid thing, but that's usually in the minority. Usually it's the wife that it just is not into the thing of being off-grid. But if you have a wife that says, hey, I really like the idea of being out in nature, and she's kind of a little bit reclusive, doesn't like to be around huge groups of people, well, then it can work out. very well. And of course, attitudes will be changing with some of the stuff that could be happening in this country before very long. Um, it'll feel a lot more comfortable to be out in nature than it will be to be in the cities with, things melting down with the economy and whatever else. So, um, so that's what I have for my list. You know, I'm probably offending people, but I've seen it, and I'm just saying, you know, if you're into that type of a thing, well, into some of the stuff here and whatever else, well, it's probably not going to go very well for you if you try to go off grid. So let me share my screen here quick. Okay, right here you can see this. This is the video. The Last Mountain Man, Idaho Salmon River's Buckskin Bill. Quite a character. If you haven't seen that video yet, they actually go out. He died in 1980. But you go out, or these people, they basically make like a little film crew, and they go out there and they interview this guy, and he lives out there in the middle of nowhere. And so, uh, but yeah, it's a neat video if you haven't seen that. He's the guy that says about they leave Los Angeles and they take Los Angeles with them or something to that effect. So I thought that was pretty funny. But so any questions? What do you mean by barbarian? Born again barbarian. Well, barbarian is the Bible word for a Northern European. So that's what I'm. I'm a barbarian ancestry. I'm going to be bringing out some stuff here in some upcoming videos about some of that. But I was in contact with my older sister, and she's been on Ancestry.com for a while and going back over our ancestry. And she's documented 14 generations back to Germany and Switzerland. So all the people out there that think I'm a Jew or whatever else, or, you look Jewish, you act Jewish, whatever. Well, I'm not. She did a DNA test and the whole deal and everything else. There's not one drop of Jewish blood in my family. Don't hate the Jews or anything, but I'm saying, so I'm a barbarian according to the Bible. And that's what a lot of people think of me because of the way we live. So, which is fine. My biggest issue is government and all their red tape. In terms of going off grid, well, watch my one on the off grid legal issues. That covers a lot of that. Okay, question. What if you have a wife that is hesitant to go in going off the grid? Well, you have to be in good agreement on that, because if it isn't, it's not going to work. Take her camping, take her out in places, maybe rent a cabin someplace or whatever else, and just show her the benefits of being out there and picking wild edibles and whatever else. So there's a lot to that, but it's just a matter of ease her into it, explain to her why it would be a good idea. Question. Sorry I missed yesterday. North Americans should be careful when moving to the tropics because of flesh-eating bacteria. It happened to someone many years ago. Yeah, there's some weird stuff down in tropical areas. Yeah. Question. What about cleanliness? Work with a guy who thinks he must shower every single day. Strange. Yeah, you can actually dry your skin out doing that. You can lead to a lot of different chafing and whatever issues if you're just taking showers all the time. But I covered that in one of the other live streams, the thing about hygiene. So Question: do you still offer Bible study groups or no? Not sure what you mean in terms of in person. Not sure if you mean in person or not. Um, Question definitely off topic, but with the news breaking with Russia, what do you make of it from a scriptural viewpoint? I guess, how does possible homeland invasion affect off-grid living as well? That's actually a good question. That's actually one that I would, like to cover here. I don't think that there's any invasion right now in Russia. I think it's another Gulf of Tonkin, or it's a staged event. They're trying to get war with Russia, which I think would be a really stupid idea. If you haven't seen the video where they have the Chinese military recruitment video, the Russian military recruitment video, and then the cartoon army one with the girl that had two moms or whatever else, just insane. Our modern military is a joke. Uh, I knew the one guy went into the army, and he said that they stopped doing the jumping jacks. They go like this because too many people were hurting their shoulders. Yeah, we're going to fight Russia. Yeah. But in terms of an invasion, yeah, again, that might be a time when a lot of people right now, it's just, oh, this kooky off-grid stuff. I don't know if I want that. So the country starts falling apart, stuff hits the fan, the whole deal. I think you're going to be happy to be off-grid. I mean, all the Black Lives Matter riots and everything else, and the cities being burned down and everything, and we're out at our property and things. We're just walking around, and I said to my wife one time, I said, there's people right now that are fearing for their lives, and they're out there fighting and all this other horrible stuff. And we're just, oh, look, there's a pretty bird. So what might seem weird to a lot of people right now, it might make sense in the future. And having an off-grid place is going to seem like a really good idea. And if armies do come, they're going to be sticking mainly to the highways and to populated areas and whatever else. They're pretty much just going to leave people alone out in the country. There'd be no point in hunting down every single person. Just cut off electric, cut off supplies, whatever. And if that time comes and you're off grid, you're going to be very thankful for it. Be worth more than all the money in the world, which can disappear pretty quickly. Question: how can a man find female companionship living off grid? Well, maybe go to like fishing and hunting, shows, or gun shops, or whatever else, things that might have off, or women that would be there and they're interested in that, and whatever. And if, as a saved Christian, you can pray about it and say, Lord, please send someone to me. I mean, I met my wife. She was ex-military, but she didn't know a thing about off-grid living. And she, got into the whole thing very quickly. And it was actually her that pushed me to go off-grid, by the way. I should say that too. We had our place at Bridgewater, and I was saying, I want to get the cabin built first. I want to get this thing set up and that thing set up before we move in. And she said, we just need to go. Let's just move. It doesn't matter. We don't have everything perfect right now, but I'm willing to rough it. I just can't stand living in town. She's never liked living in town. I didn't either, but I was trying to get everything set up just perfectly for my wife and my son, and she just said, let's just move. Let's go right now. So I thank the Lord for my wife. I want to point out that Costa Rica is like South America, for far different. Guyana does not get earthquakes and tornadoes, etc. We live on a big rock, as the parable of the rock. Yeah, South America, there's definitely some interesting things down there. I've never been to South America, especially down in the really low part of South America. I'd love to. It looks like a beautiful place down there. Question: I have a question about, not about off-grid, but about nocturnal emission. I feel like demons bully and torment me in my dreams. Nocturnal emissions, most of them are about my past addiction porn. Yeah, there's ways to get around that. You can play the King James Bible, like Alexander Scorby recordings, very low, so it's not keeping you awake. I would recommend that. Make sure you don't have any kind of occult stuff around, and pray about it. I struggle with that same thing. Um, Question: with the trucker strikes, is it best to move out of the cities and towns? I already live in the sticks. Just curious. Uh, the trucker protest thing, I don't know how that's going to go. There's definitely some issues there. Mostly it's going to cause supply chain problems, stuff not available in the stores and things. It will ultimately, which probably ultimately will lead to rioting. Um, Question: do you think that someone wanting to move off grid should spend a couple months getting themselves off of pharma drugs in hospitals? Also, women should look into the Lily Cup. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. People should, you kind of prepare yourself to go off grid. Um, Question: do you have a house church? Usually children in isolated homes would socialize in church. How do you account for that problem? It's not a problem. I'm thinking about getting kids married in particular. My son, it's so funny. People, oh, you're back in there, you're isolated and everything else. We have to tell my son not to talk to adults when we go out to stores. He's very social with people, and people strike up conversations with him, and he'll carry on conversations with people. He's not some weird little boy that walks around through the store or something. That's a nonsense that you raise children back in the middle of nowhere and then they'd be very antisocial and weird and whatever. Not true. Um, Not true at all. Question: at what age, or have you already begun to teach Oliver knowledge and instruction how to use guns and weapons? And what age do you recommend? Well, that's going to depend on the child. There are some children that mature a little bit quicker. They can handle it. If they have a gun and they're, how do you point this thing, Dad, or whatever? Okay, they're not quite ready. But my son, he's already shooting archery. He has his own bow, and he does pretty good actually with it. And he's very much into that. He has his own BB gun. Haven't done a whole lot because the stock on the BB gun's a little bit too long, and I could cut it down for him and whatever else. But cocking it, whatever else, he's not real good at that. And he's learning about the thing of sights and sighting down, getting your sight picture and lining your rear and front sight up. He's learning it, is what he's doing. But he's had a toy gun since he was old enough to remember. So yeah, on that. But I keep him around. He's around my guns and whatever else. He knows how loud they are. So I've never had a problem with him playing with one of my actual guns because he doesn't like the really loud noise and things. So he'd be afraid to actually go and grab one of Dad's guns and shoot it off or something. And he's been taught from the very beginning that you don't touch something that's Dad or Mom's unless you ask. It's the way I was raised. Question: what is the best way to build a foundation for a cabin? I want to try and build a cabin this summer, have plenty of room on the 7-acre property I'm renting. Um, that depends on where you're at. If you're down south, you don't really need much of a foundation because you have, the ground isn't going to be heaving with spring, with it freezing in the winter and then spring, thaw, and whatever. Um, you have to study, where you're at there. Um, we actually did a foundation for a cabin that was all hand laid stone, and the stone can move and shift with the seasons, and the cabin can just kind of stay there. And if you put like angle bracing on the cabin, like knee braces for timber framing, it pretty much isn't going to move. But even without that, our cabin, you can go in and anytime at all put the level on the wall, and it's perfect. And it has just dry stone laid foundation. Up here, there's a lot of people that do the thing of piers, like a concrete poured piers. A lot of the old timers, like there's a cabin. I was talking to one of the rangers back at Baxter State Park, which is the beginning of the Appalachian Trail. If you don't know that, it's not far from where we're at right now. This is actually the north entrance. Right here, you have to go past our office to get to the north entrance of Baxter State Park to begin the journey on the Appalachian Trail or end it, depending on which way you're traveling. But I was talking to one of the rangers, and I was looking at the one house that they have there, and it's just concrete blocks, just crisscrossed up like this, and then the cabin was built. And she told me, she said that that's how the logging companies used to build a lot of the old cabins. They would crisscross, um, concrete block or whatever else. And she said, there's times that you come in the spring and you go to open the door, it's a little bit tight, and you say, okay, it's tight this way. We'll just go jack up the one side of the cabin and put some shims underneath there, and the door opens perfectly. So if you have a small place, it doesn't matter. You know, I remember, talking to the one older guy I was speaking about earlier, and he said that he had a cabin, and same thing. He said there are times he'd have to go in through the window to get the door open and whatever else. And he said you never knew which part of the cabin was, caved in, or not caved in, but sunk down, and things. And he said finally he just said enough of this, and had a concrete pad poured underneath, and then he said it doesn't move anymore. So, but dry laid stone would probably be the easiest, and it works. It works very well. Again, if you're down south or something and you put wood right on the ground, it's going to get termites. It's going to really get messed up. Question: do you have any videos on how to teach or discipline children? No, I don't. That's a whole other subject. I haven't really gotten into that. Just read the Bible. It's pretty much spells it out. Question: would it be a sinful lifestyle to do professional boxing or any fighting sport where you intend to hurt people very badly? Well, for what point? What's the point of that? You want to get in good shape or something, go out off grid and split firewood. I don't really see the point in that. Just a kind of a prideful thing. So I don't mean that the children are affected by, but instead that they have fewer opportunities to meet a partner. For example, I don't know of anyone meeting a partner in a supermarket. That's up to the Lord, is the way I look at it. There are, I mean, my son, he's met girls his age and everything, and he's not exactly, oh, hey, I'd like to date a girl here. I'm 7 years old now, or there's farms we go to and things, and they have children his age, and they play and whatever else, talk to each other. It's not a big deal. All right. Do we have any other questions? Any other thoughts? Did I miss anything? Are there other people that should not move off grid? Anybody have any experience with that? Question: what books are you going through at the moment? I'm assuming you mean other than the Bible. I'm actually reading a book called The Hidden Rainbow. It's a history of electricity, and pretty interesting. Haven't had a chance to really get um, much time to read it because there's a lot of stuff going on right now in our lives. Uh, where I live, China, yeah, with Trudeau Ping or whatever. You don't need a gun to hunt, just a hunting license, and bows don't need a firearm license, but same safety rules apply with the use of a bow as any other hunting tool. Yeah, you have to be really good with a bow, otherwise you can really hurt an animal. And it's, my dad used to call it butcher sport because he saw too many people just, shoot an arrow into the deer and hope for the best or something. Well, that doesn't work. Okay, on that question right there, it's not really about the off-grid thing, but I have a video sermon on did Jesus talk to himself? Okay, it's one of the common Trinitarian attacks, but I'll just say that. You can go look that sermon up. Question: what is one of the major differences between entirely off-grid and being on-grid but away from civilization, like 30 minutes to an hour away from nearest gas station kind of thing? Well, um, for me, the biggest part of being off-grid is the ability to produce my own electricity and to not need the grid. Um, Growing up, we would have power outages occasionally, but it wasn't real typical. And then the second house that my parents moved to, and I lived with them for a while before I got married, that place there, for some odd reason, it just the power would go out and be out for a couple of days, and uh, it got so old, and I finally just thought I need to really study this off-grid stuff, the cabin, type of thing that we would go and visit my uncle's cabin as a boy, and I just so I wasn't this just dependent on things. The power grid goes down, you can't flush the toilet, you don't run the sink, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. And I thought, I really don't like that. I like to be able to say, power go if the power grid goes down here right now in our office, I just say, okay, well, you know what, let's just head home. And we go home and you go in, everything works. There's no, oh no, this the power's off here too or something. It all works. So you can have a place that's kind of um, you know out uh, in a small town someplace or whatever else, but you should still implement some of the off-grid types of things and thoughts so that you don't go, if power goes out, you're not dependent. Question: I'm disabled and I suffer from autism. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like I could go off grid. Is there any hope for me in this matter, or should I just forget about the idea entirely? Well, it's something you have to pray about. I don't know your exact situation. I can't say exactly what to do. Um, Try to do some things of getting away from dependence of using an electric mixer or whatever else. Just try to implement some things slowly into your life. Maybe see if there's some people that would want you and whatever skills you might have that you could move to their place off grid. Those are things that you can think about. Um, Question: what about people who need to move off grid by force, war, and parent needs insulin? Um, well, again, study the whole thing of healthy ways to get around the diabetes type of a thing. That's what I would recommend for that. Um, if you're forced to be off grid because of war, well, if you have the skills and whatever else of learning how to live off the land, well, that's going to really help you if you're forced to go off grid. With off grid living, can one live in a tent in the wilderness? Uh, you can survive in a tent in the wilderness, but living for a very long time be pretty rough. Okay, I'm missing some of the questions here. Question: why do you think that America doesn't have so many clustered settlements? If you go back in history, most villages would be clustered together, not isolated, similar to the early colonies. Yeah, people have always very much formed into little close-knit communities and whatever else because you can't do everything yourself. Um, I have skills in woodworking, but I'm not really talented with blacksmithing, we'll say, or raising animals all that well. You get around other people like that, and I think as America really falls apart here within the next couple of years, um, I mean, the system that we have and all the weird division that's been created by Hollywood and the movies and the media, excuse me, not the movies, well, Hollywood movies, but Hollywood and the media and all the stuff that these people have created to divide the American people. And after things fall apart, I really think that it's going to be whoever's left. They're going to start coming together and forming those little tight knit communities once again. Um, do you think we will suffer famine before the time of Jacob's trouble? I think we will. Yeah, I think we will this year, actually. Um, Question: Your solar. What do you have for storage batteries? The one system that I have for solar, believe it or not, is actually one of our old school buses. Um, it had 3 batteries in it, 3 big commercial grade batteries. You know, it's a big bus, big diesel motor in it. And all I did is I took the 3 batteries out of the little compartment there by kind of under where you sit, brought them up into the actual cab of the school bus. I removed the chair and all the other stuff from inside of it. I built a little plywood box over top of the batteries, and then I put the charge controller and an inverter on top of that, and then I have 4 100-watt panels. They go down and they keep those 3 batteries charged, and it works. We power a refrigerator with that. Now, is that long-term, long-lasting? No, but it was free. It came with the school bus, you know. And then the other system that we have is a Yeti. It's an older one. It's a 1250, and it has a battery in it. And then I also have a like a, I forget what you call the thing, but it actually connects to a second battery. So we have 2 batteries inside. That's a smaller system. I think it's a 200-watt system, and then so we have a 200-watt and a 400-watt system. One is off of school bus batteries. The other is off of a Yeti 1250. So I forget the exact name of the exact battery brand and whatever else, but they're more of the solar type battery. Both are 12 volt. They're not 6 volt and all the different stuff there. Um, they work. Um, Question: Have you heard of solar power generators? Would those be a good idea or alternative for power, Jackery, fluidity, etc.? Yeah, that's basically what one of my systems is. The Yeti 1250 is another one. Um, they work pretty good from what I understand. I'm not familiar with some of the ones you mentioned there, but I think it's basically the same thing. Okay. Are you going to make a video on how to find medicinal and edible plants off grid? No, I'm going to talk about that. Um, Finding food, foraging for food, growing food. I will be talking about that in one of the seminars coming up. But I can't, I mean, I could show some of what we have here in Maine, but it really wouldn't be applicable to somebody in the South or somebody out West or in another country or whatever else. Um, so it'd be better for people to just study that stuff on their own. Um, I'm just trying to see. Question: In the event of World War III, would it be safer to go off grid in Latin America or somewhere very remote in the US? Um, that really depends. I don't know. That's one way or another, which way it'll go. I can't say at this point in time. Um, I don't know what's going to happen to America when this country breaks down. Um, oops. Okay. Latin America has 50 years to catch up on tech. Would be better there. Good point. Yeah. I've heard some bad stuff. I don't know what's going on right now with the whole pandemic thing and all the lockdown stuff and whatever else. I mean, you know, down there, any kind of a third world country or whatever, man, it's probably really bad down there. I don't know. So, um, Have you ever made pemmican, and what are your thoughts on food storage for long-term survival? Good question. Yes, I have made pemmican. Um, I didn't use fish oil. I used peanut butter. Peanut butter, dried fruit, um, finely chopped up nuts, and beef jerky, and I forget what else I put in it. But yeah, it was very good. Long-term food storage uh, for survival purposes. Um, any kind of processed foods that have preservatives in them, you want to stay away from those. Spam, stuff like that, not really good. Mystery meat, MREs, not really that good for you. Um, Long-term food for storage and whatever else that will last for a long time would be dried beans, oatmeal, um, couscous, barley, rice, things like that, pastas, um, spices, herbs, salt, like the Celtic sea salt. Um, there's a lot of that stuff that you can do. Dried powders, like superfood powders, they'll last for a very long time. Um, there are certain things that really do have a good shelf life, and you can use those. And they're bases for what you can find. If you go out and you can hunt, you can fish, you can slaughter your own animals. You go out, you can forage for wild edibles, and then add them to those bases, like rice and all the other stuff. You cook that, and then you add the other things into it. Um, that's my advice. It's what we've done for a long time. Um, Question: do you have any advice on getting over being shy? This has affected me in trying to witness and trying to find a wife. Just keep praying about that. Hide God's word in your heart, and you'll overcome your shyness. I was a very shy, very quiet boy growing up, and you'll get there. You will. If you're looking for a wife and looking to witness to the Lord and things, you just pray about it. Become obsessed with your subject. Read the Word of God. Really put it in your mind quite a bit. And the Lord will bring you into situations and will give you the courage to speak. Question: what do you think about ship's biscuits? Look up Guyanese dish on YouTube named Cook Up. Don't really know much about that. I know a good channel that I'd like to recommend in terms of like off-grid cooking type of stuff and whatever else would be James Townsend and Sons, I think it's called, on YouTube, or James Townsend and Son, or J.A. Townsend and Son, I forget, but he does 18th century cooking, and so it's all cooked over open fires. It's really simple ingredients. He's put out some really good information and gets into the thing. I mean, they build a cabin by hand, they build a dugout canoe by hand. It's all stuff, off-grid living. If you want to do it right, it requires a lot of study, and you can learn a lot. So question: how often do you go out hunting? Well, usually the hunting season is when I go out. I don't really, don't go out and just shoot anything I want whenever I want to or whatever else. I mean, there's, um, again, if you study the history of hunting, there was a market hunting time here in America where people were just going out and slaughtering a lot of wildlife. So they came up with the Game Commission to kind of say, hey, don't just go out and kill everything. It's not sustainable to do that very long term. So, if there's a varmint or something like that, some animal that's getting into your whatever, messing stuff up, and that's something that you can eat, well, okay. Certain game laws don't protect uh, certain animals. You can pretty much hunt them year round. Question: can you skin a rabbit? Yeah, you can. Any other questions? Keep an eye out down here. My dog, I don't know what he's doing. Okay, just laying there. Question: do you think being able to make meals mostly from dried ingredients, chickpea, rice, barley, beans, etc., is a good base since they have a long shelf life? Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Absolutely, it's a good thing to do. You can add stuff to it and whatever else. Question: after you're saved, how urgent should it be that you get baptized? Um, that really depends. Uh, I mean, it's a good thing to do. It's not required. It's not going to affect you if you don't get baptized or something, but I think it's a good thing to do. Um, so, yeah. Uh, just show this one here quick. What case do you make for 1 John 5:7 being included in the KJV? I don't know. I think I have a video on that actually. I have, the books to prove it and everything else. There were early church father citations of the Johannine comma. Um, it should be in there. It's an off-grid seminar. I'm not really going to talk about that whole thing there. Okay, there, Sister Chantre, put the link right there. So there you go. Thank you for doing that, sister. Question: if you were to quit your current job in town, how would you go full off grid? Well, you don't just quit your job and go full off grid. Um, you know, you have to learn to kind of build up the property and everything else. Um, so I'm just looking for any kind of um, off-grid stuff here. There's spiritual questions coming in, which is fine if I'm doing a Bible study type of thing right now, but I'm trying to get this off-grid seminar type of thing going here. Have you tried a solar oven? No. We have one, but we haven't had a chance to try it yet. It's been something we've been trying to get done there, but well, we're about at an hour here, so I'm going to call it quits for today. Tomorrow is going to be why I am not into primitive survival. Difference between some of the bushcraft survival stuff that you'll see on YouTube and off-grid living. There is a difference there. So okay, I'll answer this one yet. What do you think of e-bikes as alternative to a car, a more affordable alternative? Don't really know much about them, honestly. So Townsend has some great recipes I've tried. Many also, Doug and Stacy Off Grid on YouTube have a lot of good information for people. Yeah, both good channels. They both put out a lot of good stuff. Eat the meat, spit out the bones, kind of a thing. You can learn a lot from people. Always be open to learning. So, but thank you to everybody out there for watching. And please hit the like button if you're not subscribed. Subscribe, because if not, then my channel gets buried and doesn't exist and whatever. So I'm not monetized, but I'm just, I'm a little slow sometimes with technology type of things, and so I've never bothered to really tell people please subscribe or whatever. And I've actually made videos saying please unsubscribe to people, but then my channel just gets buried. So if you could please hit the like button and leave a comment and whatever else, that'd be great. So we will see you tomorrow for another part of the off-grid seminar, and then I think that will be, that'll be number 10, and then we'll have 4 more to go after that. So that is going to be it. And I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time.